Donald Trump cut the fuel supply to billions of dollars of humanitarian aid, which was always used by every prior administration to promote diplomacy of America, to keep people who are suffering out of the hands of the Chinese and the Russians and to stop them from dying as a byproduct. But to the Trump administration, it's just dollars and cents. It doesn't even make sense. We try to make sense of it all on Legal AF, the podcast, After Dark edition. Take a listen. You want to touch base on that one, Ben, the Supreme Court decision that just came out?
Yeah, talk about the Supreme Court. Talk about the Supreme Court decision. I mean, look, and this is how Trump weaponizes his own negligence. And this arises out of the USAID funding case where money was appropriated to go to these programs where the United States, as the leader of the free world, would have lots of contract. This was a win-win deal. It's why Republicans loved USAID. Republicans loved USAID until Donald Trump and Elon Musk said it's woke and you shouldn't love it. Why? Because it was great for farmers and American businesses that would get all of these contracts with USAID, especially because in the first Trump administration, his trade wars screwed over a lot of these farmers who had surplus crops and a lot of other producers of stuff. So you'd give it to USAID, and then there would be starving people abroad, whether it was in Africa or other areas, and America would provide aid in the form of medical services and food services and all, and all of these services, surgeries, procedures. And this was started also by President John F. Kennedy, because he recognized that if you don't do this, a lot of people can become terrorists and then attack the United States. And soft power, being diplomatic, doing the types of things that China is now doing with its Silk Road 2 program, building bridges, building roads, investing in places, builds goodwill. And then you don't have to use all your military might to kind of keep a stable world order. Well, we know
that's why it's in the State Department.
That's why it's in the State Department. But we know from Donald Trump's meeting with Zelensky that Trump's just basically he's Putin's puppet, laundering Russia talking points, that Donald Trump wants to destroy the world order because essentially that's what Putin wants to do. And, Trump attacks Europe, he attacks NATO, he attacks Canada, he attacks Mexico. Are there going to be tariffs? Are there not going to be tariffs? He obviously despises and detests Zelensky, and shout out to the courage Zelensky showed, by the way, in the Oval Office meeting. But in any way, part of the gutting of American power is getting rid of USAID, but there were already contracts where this food was supposed to go. So basically the Doge efficiency plan was, even though the food was ready, just let it rot. Just let it rot. Even though the ships were paid for, don't bring the food there. And at first, Doge tried to lie in court with those DOJ lawyers that we were telling about and said, no, the cuts just relate to future stuff, not the past contracts, right? That was their first lie. And then the lawyers who were fighting for this aid to get where it was supposed to said, no. That's a lie. It's actually for contracts that are already done and made. And now this stuff has to get delivered. Just deliver the stuff that's already there, because the food's going to literally rot. And then people are going to die. Or people have medical procedures where they're going to die if they don't get the procedures done. Or people have medical devices like inside their bodies, and there needs to be a checkup or something, or they're going to die because we did things to try to keep experimental procedures to try to keep them alive, or whatever it was. Or we owe certain, or we have people stranded in locations in foreign countries. So just make good on the past contracts. Congress appropriated them. So the federal judge, once he diced through the Doge lie, said, well, that makes sense. I suppose the Trump administration in the future with Congress can set new future priorities, but the contracts that are done, get those to their final destination points. And he said, you got to do it in 36 hours. Why? Because people are literally going to die. Babies are going to die. Kids are going to get HIV/AIDS if the mother doesn't get the the medication, you're going to screw people's lives. This isn't a game. This isn't like when Elon Musk is, at CPAC and goes, I'm a meme. I guess I'm a meme. And what Elon had his 14th kid. This is in addition to the one with, Ashley saying, 14 kids, 15 kids, however many kids with 5 baby mamas or 4 baby mamas, whatever it is, and maybe it's all a game to these freaking billionaire oligarchs, but like innocent kids across the world are going to be freaking dying because of these decisions. So anyway, there was a big win at the district court, a big win at the Court of Appeals to get these resources on the ship that are already there. And again, I'm making this distinction, not the future stuff, just the stuff. Why let the food rot? But the Trump administration was saying, let the food rot. Kill the babies. Kill the people. I'm using direct terms because that's what they're fighting for. Do not let the stuff that's already supposed to get there. We want to crush the future stuff and the past stuff. Let's not pay the contractors. By the way, many are American contractors. Let's not pay the people for the services that they've already done. Screw them. So it's not just you're also screwing American farmers in America. Screw the contractors. Sound familiar? The guy who screwed contractors his whole life? Screwing the contractor? Yeah, screw the contractors. It's why when I see these unions support the guy or like union members, the guy literally, he loves screwing contractors almost the way he loves attacking Zelensky. Like, I'm not sure. Contractors Zelensky for Donald Trump are a close 1 and 2 of people who he absolutely hates. Ukrainian contractors, but he loves Putin and firing contractors. Equal love and hate relationship. So then the Trump administration rushes to the Supreme Court. Kill the babies. Kill the babies. Kill the people. Let them die. Don't deliver the food. And Justice John Roberts issues a stay that stops the food from getting to its destination, that stops the medication, that stays or stops the district court order, which said in 36 hours, Trump administration, you've got to fund what the Congress already said you are required to fund. You have to faithfully execute the law. Now, Justice John Roberts was like, look, we're going to do expedited briefing here. I take this very seriously. And the Trump administration's argument is that they don't have the resources because of all of their firings to get, even if they wanted to comply with the 36-hour deadline. So when I said they were weaponizing their own negligence, the main argument for the Trump administration is saying, look, we need the actual status quo is not giving the contracts to where they're supposed to go. Because when we talk about injunctions, it's about the status quo. They're saying the status quo right now is we're not capable of even complying with those orders. We need your help, intervene, because we don't have the staff to even now deliver this. Now, they should have been delivering it because if you faithfully execute the law, this should have been done months ago at this point, 40 days ago. This should not have been a contrived crisis. But Justice John Roberts steps in, orders a stay, blocks the order for that required that the funding take place for a short period of time. And now there's been expedited briefing submitted. But in this expedited briefing, the Trumps also fired the people who compile the data. But how many kids have died? How many people have died? How many people are starving? How many kids have got AIDS now and HIV because of this? How many people are suffering? How many people are starving to death right now? How many people have gotten diseases? And that to me is the heart of all of this cruelty, wrapping this episode together, with kind of the final bow that we do at Legal AF, is that this is not a game. And perhaps in Elon Musk and Trump and these tech oligarchs who are so detached from the day-to-day lives that we Americans have to deal with, where paycheck to paycheck is an issue. When prices are surging, that's a problem. When housing is less affordable, when Trump lies and says he's going to make IVF free, and for people that is the most important thing in their lives, and you said you're gonna make IVF free, and then you lie about it and you rug pull free IVF when you rug pull no tax on tips, and you lie to the, this has real impact on human beings' lives, and it's not a game. And with social media rage algorithms, with propaganda media, with Elon Musk and Trump and their propagandists, they've gamified life, and they've tried to make life so worthless and so insignificant and so meaningless. And while they go and pursue this fascistic agenda that's helping billionaires. Popok, it's a long rant, but I'll give you the last word on the show.
Okay. Let me collect my thoughts there for a minute. Look, let me bring it back to the law and politics, which is the focus of our show. The Supreme Court stepping in at the last minute, and John Roberts through the shadow docket putting a pin in it without recognizing or caring about worldwide suffering and the undermining of American diplomacy, which is the result. As I only half joked, there's a reason USAID is in the State Department and not the Department of Defense. It's because you're trying to both do humanitarian things which are aligned with American values, which are wholly missing from this administration. There's just a divorce between what we consider, if you were to ask the average American to define American values, if you were to ask the average European to define American values without reference to Trump, you got to do it without referencing Trump. And you then look and try to map those values onto what we are watching with the administration, you would see a completely morally and value bankrupt administration. And when you've got that going on. When you have the Supreme Court stepping in with its shadow docket and just saying, well, we'll just do as a matter of course, let's do a briefing schedule. I'll see you guys all in a month or two, without a recognition that this will undermine American values, American democracy as a shining beacon around the world, and turn people from suffering who were receiving humanitarian aid and turn them towards the East, towards the Chinese and the Russians. Welcome back. Thanks for being part of our audience. If you don't know about Legal AF, the podcast, that's our podcast. Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Midas Touch and Legal AF YouTube channels. And you can catch us full length. It's an hour long at the intersection of law and politics. And then on all audio podcast platforms of your choice. We sit at the intersection of law and politics so that you don't have to. I do my work, Michael Popok, on the Midas Touch Network every hour. And then over here on Legal AF, the YouTube channel, where we're continuing to grow to 500,000 subscribers in our first 6 months of existence. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states, and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.